Hello to my crew here in studio. It is election day in America. The future of two states in particular is on the line. The races are a reality check for President Biden. The results could set the tone for the midterms next year and beyond. So I want you to take a look at this map with me here. There are some key races to watch out for in New Jersey and Virginia. In New Jersey, of course, they're looking to elect their next governor. And mayoral races across Seattle, Minneapolis, they've got a big crime and safety issue that they're voting on in terms of replacing the police. They're looking at the future of policing after the murder of George Floyd. So a lot to get to. Atlanta, I think there are 14 people on the ballot there. But let's go to Virginia, where former Democratic Governor Terry McAuliffe is locked in a tight race against Republican Glenn Youngkin. Both held rallies last night. Our Leland Vittert is live in Washington, D.C. You talked with both candidates in Virginia. First, what did they say to you?
Adrienne, good morning. And you're hearing the closing arguments for both camps. You might describe Glenn Youngkin's closing argument as Trump light. It's a lot of MAGA principles, but he will never say the word Donald Trump, even when asked. Why? It's because Donald Trump is deeply unpopular in the state of Virginia. It is a state that President Biden won by 10 points. On the other hand, you've got Terry McAuliffe, who all he will talk about is Donald Trump. He's trying to set this up as a referendum on Donald Trump. Youngkin equals Trump, Trump equals bad, don't vote for Youngkin. And there are some voters that I talked to who were buying into that, saying essentially that they didn't like McAuliffe's first term when he was governor back in 2013. But, okay, fine, I can live with that just because Youngkin is so bad because he's mixed with Donald Trump. That seems to be the minority of voters we talk to, and that certainly is not where the momentum is headed in Virginia right now. Glenn Youngkin's message is that this is about Virginia, it's about education, and it's about a referendum on Joe Biden. And if it sets up that way, it is going to be the biggest political surprise since President Trump's victory in 2016. Glenn Youngkin's victory will have enormous consequences for the political landscape, proving that a non-Trumpian Republican who does not wrap themselves in the MAGA flag is able to win a Biden plus 10 state. That's an earthquake, Adrienne.
Leland, I have a question for you, because a lot of times when we see stories on politics, we just have this depiction of people extremely agitated, angry, at odds with one another. In Virginia, it's such a tight race. Can you just describe the mood on the ground? Because I would imagine that the majority of people are reasonable and they're choosing their candidate for a particular reason, something that they care about. Can you just kind of touch on that?
Well, fair on both points. The number one issue in the race is education, which I've covered politics for 20 years and talked to people who've covered it for double that. No one really remembers a time when the number one issue on voters' minds in a statewide race, and certainly a statewide race with national implications and national attention, was education. And you talked about anger. There are a lot of parents, especially white suburban women, who were not happy with Donald Trump, who are now flipping to Glenn Youngkin. Why? They're angry. They're not angry about what math courses are going to be taught. They're angry about critical race theory. They're angry about transgender bathrooms. They're angry sort of in a larger sense about this new woke world that Terry McAuliffe has embraced and is promising. Glenn Youngkin has harnessed that anger. Whether what came first, Glenn Youngkin talking about education and critical race theory, or people angry about it, hard to tell. But when Terry McAuliffe in a debate at the end of September said, I don't think parents should have a role in their kids' education, leave that to the school boards, leave that to teachers, that was the inflection point in this race. And you talk about anger. In Loudoun County especially, 30, 40 minutes from here, one of the wealthiest counties in America, went hard for Joe Biden. That county is now flipping, if not now a toss-up for Glenn Youngkin. That's big.
Yes, infamously in the news for a couple of reasons, including some of those topics that you mentioned. Yeah, if you want to impassion people, talk about their children and what you're going to do in regards to their education. Thank you so much. In New Jersey now, Governor Phil Murphy. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.